Y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You are made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is going to be so amazing. I'm so excited. I just can't even stand it. Today's guest is Kristin Ostrander, and Kristin has come from the emotional low of foreclosure to scaling a 7-figure business. She is determined to make an impact in the lives of others. She's an author, serial entrepreneur, speaker, podcaster, and an e-commerce expert. She founded mommyincome.com and hosts a weekly podcast, The Amazon Files, where she helps others start and grow businesses online. After creating a multi-million-dollar e-commerce selling strategy, she set out to spread hope to the world that your dreams are possible and worth the work. With her new book, Dream Big, Step Small, she desires to impact women all over the world to help them find their purpose, following their dreams, and take small steps to get everything they ever wanted. Y'all, please join me in welcoming
So glad to be here. Thank you so much for this invite.
Absolutely. I am so thrilled, and I can't say how proud I am of you for going from where you were in foreclosure to building this amazing business. You've got to tell us how that all happened, how it started, what was the turning point. I know there's 50 million questions in here, but I'm going to let you go ahead and get us started with your journey.
Yes, indeed. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. It is a joy to be able to share my story and my journey, which started way back. So my husband and I were, I like to say semi-high school sweethearts. He was a few years older, but I was just graduated from high school and I just knew he was the one and we were going to make it work. And so we got married. I was the ripe old age of 20. And then he works in commercial construction, and in the state of Michigan that is always feast or famine. So he's either working really hard, lots of hours, or it's winter and we're kind of shut down and there's nothing to do. And God surprised us with our first child right away in our first year of marriage, and I needed to bring in some income, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. We knew we didn't want to have that journey where it was ships passing in the night, where he would go work a day shift and I would work a night shift, or having a daycare setting. We really thought the first 5 to 6 years before kids go to school were really important to us to influence them and to just bring them up in the way they should go. And so that was important to us. But as a young couple with not a lot of experience, I did a couple of years of college, but they kind of kicked me out because they were like, you have to pick a major and pick what you want to do. And I thought, I don't know what I want to do. Everything here that's available just didn't sound interesting to me. I wanted to raise my kids. I wanted to kind of be on my own terms. And so that kind of presented a struggle there. The struggle really was that I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure that having a full 9 to 5 kind of career was going to be for me. So in that time, I discovered e-commerce. In 2003, I was able. I sold my first item on eBay, and mostly it was necessity. We just didn't have a lot of money as a young, young couple starting their family, and so I sold my, those Easter dresses that you buy for your children that are just so expensive but so beautiful. They wear one time and then they don't fit. So I thought, what am I going to do with this? I want to try to resell it. So I discovered eBay and I started to sell on eBay, and I got my first start in e-commerce with that. And then I discovered Amazon. The hand in hand, that's kind of how I've built my business forward. But fast forward, the 2 more children later, and I would say almost a decade. And after my third child was born, a week after she was born, my husband came home with an injury, injured his shoulder. And he is a carpenter, so he needs that shoulder really bad.
Right.
And in the midst of that, a lot of people think when you get a work injury, oh, you'll just get workers' compensation, everything will be fine, and you'll just live your best life. That is not the case. So when he was injured, I still had, I was building my business small. I was selling some things, and we were, bringing in a little extra income because we just didn't have a choice. It was necessity to do that. And when he was injured and came home, I thought it's time to ramp up this business, but also he had to have surgery. He was off for a long time, and we did not receive workers' compensation. They decided after looking at his shoulder that this is degenerative and they didn't want to pay for it. So we had to go through the union and a lawsuit. And in the meantime, my little business could not support a family of 5 at that time. It was little and I was keeping it going. It was extra money, grocery money, things like that.
Right.
But then it wasn't enough to keep and save our house. And unfortunately, with his injury and not receiving workers' compensation and my small business that I had, it wasn't enough to keep the house going. And we lost what we thought was our forever home during that time.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I know that there's a silver lining at the end of this story. So can you tell us, what was that turning point? What happened? Was there a day, a time, something specific that said, look, things are changing and going only up from here?
Yeah, when they take your house and you feel like you've got nothing left, you have to dig deep and you have to find where your strength comes from. And I don't know about you or your audience, but I know for me that I'm a God girl. So we dug into our faith and we knew that God had better for us, but we knew we had to work. And so in that time, we lost our home to foreclosure. We were able to, because my husband's a carpenter, we actually were able to, a year later, save as much money as we could. He was back to work by that time. The process takes a couple of years. And he was back to work, and I thought, I've got to make this e-commerce business work. I know that I can have success in this. And so we just picked up the pieces and we started over. We rented for a while, and then we found a foreclosure home that we brick by brick rebuilt one at a time. It wasn't the dream home that we wanted at the time. It is today. But we bought it. We just thought, this is all that we can get for right now, and we will just make it our own. But in the meantime, I decided this business was all I had. I could work later. I could get up earlier. I could do what I wanted to do to protect what was important to me, and it was being here for my family first and foremost. So building up my e-commerce business, within a couple of years, I actually had a shady partner that came in, and that was sunshines and rainbows for a time. But after a couple of years, that person actually took me down to zero. So 2 years after our foreclosure, I built up my business enough for a partner to join me. And then in a couple of years, they drained my bank account to zero.
Oh, no. Oh, my word. I can't believe that happened. But you know what? Like you said, there are shady people out here, and you just got to be so careful. You cannot be too careful going into partnerships. But I love how you said you have to just find within yourself. And I'm a God girl too. So definitely praying and trusting God that He has a plan and a purpose, and that everything is happening for a reason. So I'm sure that all those experiences that you went through prepared you on some level for what you had to deal with, and even going through that situation prepared you for even more things that may happen down the road that are bigger, that are now just seem like nothing because you've already overcome all of this nonsense that has happened in your life up to this point. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so that kind of helps us understand like what drove you to start mommyincome.com. This history, this your husband's injury, digging deep and just operating in your gifts. It's like you knew deep inside, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I really want to put my family first, and this is what's going to facilitate that. So I love that you stuck to your guns and you really just really double down on it, when the going got tough, you didn't crumble. You didn't just say, oh, well, woe is me. Let me, give up my dream and join corporate America. Not that there's anything wrong with corporate America. I'm just saying,
Right.
It definitely serves a purpose and it's a great thing. But if you're at the heart an entrepreneur and you really want to be a business owner, mainly because of the flexibility that allows you to be there for your family in most cases, it's good that you stuck to that. So when you are, as you're on this journey and you're dealing with all of these things, what would you say is one of the biggest challenges that face online entrepreneurs?
I think right now going to the biggest challenge that people sometimes face is isolation. And that I think it can depend on personality, but I think it really, you become isolated when you start working and you're at home. There's no boss telling you be here and do this. You're kind of what I call CEO and janitor. In the beginning, you do all the things and you're juggling all of the things. And sometimes your friends or your family, if they're not entrepreneurs or if they've never owned a business or tried to start from scratch and move forward and all the moving parts and pieces, they don't really understand. And that's not their fault. And we're not mad at them for that, but it takes one to know one sometimes. And I feel like it's really can be lonely and isolating when you're worrying about making the payroll and trying to whether I keep someone on or I have to lay them off, and other people, they just don't understand. So I think isolation sometimes is the biggest challenge. You want to have somebody to talk to that has kind of been there and done that and understands all of the different parts and pieces of running your own business, and sometimes the stress that can come with that, and just the constant decision making. So I feel like isolation and just kind of feeling alone in what you're doing is probably the biggest challenge that most people don't anticipate.
Right. Oh, Kristin, I could not agree more. And that's one of the things. So our business that we have at Executive Help Now is a virtual assistant service, and we provide virtual administrative support and video podcast production support as well. And it's all 100% remote. So even before that time, we were remote doing the business since 2015. So we know what that's like, feeling isolated, feeling alone, not having, people who understand, like you said, all of the nuances that go into being a business owner, all the nitty gritty, and that whole meeting the payroll part. Yeah, no, when you work for corporate America, it's like, no, you just expect your paycheck to be in the bank every 2 weeks and that's a done deal. Not so much as a business owner. It's like you have to be the one to make sure the money's in the bank to pay all your people. That's a whole nother level of stress. That's a whole nother ball of wax, as my grandmother used to say. So, and one of the things though that I found that really helped with that is surrounding myself with like-minded people and with other business owners who can relate. Like you said, it's most friends and family can't relate because this is not their jam.
Yes.
When you're surrounding yourself with other female business owners, then they can, give you some suggestions and, tell you about their experiences and what they went through and things to watch out for and things to avoid, so the community is so important, so important. So, how does your book empower women to pursue their dreams gradually? Tell us more about your book and how that.
I always have to show it because that's just my baby. I love my book.
Love it.
Excuse me. So Dream Big, Step Small came from back in the day when I went to a conference. There was a gentleman who was leading an e-commerce conference, and I had gone there, and he had just written a book and spoke to him and heard a little bit about my story at that time. And he's like, "Oh, you should write a book." And I had never considered that for that moment. I thought, what do I have to say? What do I have to offer? But he said that after hearing my story and realizing, oh, wow, that could really inspire people. You should write a book. And so that was back in 2015, and I didn't kind of think much of it. I had just been teaching at Mommy Income for about a year at that time, and I was just thinking, what am I going to write down? And so I let that kind of stir and stew. And there a couple of times I started and stopped that. But then I realized, what is it that I want to say? I feel like anyone can write their story. Anyone can write a memoir, things like this. But like, what do I really want to offer that I feel like was so helpful for me? What about my journey got me from foreclosure to a seven-figure business? And really, it was kind of contrary to some of the things that we hear out in the world at different places, like dream really big and like set these big, obnoxious, audacious goals that you can never reach because, you might just fall a little short. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't like to fall short. I like to feel successful. I like to know that I'm moving in the right direction. So because of that, I thought, well, how did I get here? And I really kind of went back and looked, and I thought, I set goals, but a lot of them were just really small. So my first goal, there was a time I wanted to grow my business and I just didn't have any extra resources at all. And so I thought, I need to make $50 so that I can buy this book that this guru wrote that I need to read and understand. So I had to work and save that first $50. And then when I got the $50, I read the book and I got better. And so I thought, okay, what's the very next step that I need? Not 14 steps ahead of me. I like to plan and I like that. But I thought, what's the very next step that I can take in this journey, and like, what do I need and what do I need to move forward? So going from $50 to then, okay, no, I read this book, I educated myself, I'm going to apply even just one thing in this book to my next step. And so I learned a little bit more about e-commerce and a little bit more about building the right titles and offering the right products. And I took that and I thought, okay, what's the next step? So we didn't go from foreclosure and making the first $50 to making $1 million. It was a million little steps. And those things add up. And when you feel successful, you want to continue. And so for me, I thought, I'm going to dream a little bit bigger. And see, to me, it scares me to think about that. I never once set a goal to reach $1 million business. I just set really small goals and tried to hit them one at a time and say, oh, I checked that one off. Let me go. What's the next step? Because I felt overwhelmed with thinking about something so big. I mean, when you're in home foreclosure, you're not thinking about the next, house on the hill that you're going to buy. You're like, how am I going to live today? And so I lived for today. What are the resources I have now? Start where you are, use what you've got, and just keep building those steps.
I love that. Everything you're saying is just resonating with my spirit. I love it so much because I'm thinking about, setting goals, and I can only share my own experience, but even as the business grows and you see it becoming more and more successful, there's even what I found in my experience was I never experienced anything like this before. And so it was the kind of scary.
Yes.
Success was scary. And I was like, what in the world is this? Why that completely floored me, took me by complete surprise that this would be a scary type of thing that happened. But when you were talking about setting these big, hairy, audacious goals, which I absolutely love by Mark Batterson in the Circle Maker, shout out to him. I actually love that because I know that whatever goal that is, only God can make it happen.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so that it thrills me to be able to watch God work as
Mhm.
all of this stuff shakes out. And it's just so fun to see that. But I completely get what you're saying about setting these goals that are just achievable so that you can see that you are making a difference. You are accomplishing things and you are being successful in reaching each of those, you know, baby steps. Have you ever seen the movie What About Bob?
Yes, yes, the baby steps.
Baby stepping out of the
Yeah.
elevator,
Baby
baby
steps to the
stepping.
elevator, baby steps to the yes. And that's kind of what this is about, you know, the interesting thing about that is that, taking the BHAG kind of thing of that, and for me, I put it into what I call in chapter 3 is in a perfect world. Now, we all know there's no such thing as a perfect world, but I have people start there and with their emotions instead of, I wanna reach $1 million or I wanna do this or I wanna have that. We all can admit that where we are and where we want to be, there's a gap. There's always
Mhm.
a gap. I mean, I hope we are. I mean, there's some people I don't know that have arrived, but every even person super successful. Even I saw a Grammy interview with Bruno Mars, and you know we know he's got so many Grammys and so good, and he said, I never stop improving. There's always something I want to do, there's always a place I want to grow into. And we're like, haven't you arrived already?
Right?
Like,
You
we're
wanna be
like,
a millionaire? Okay, you're a millionaire.
right,
Okay.
a billionaire at this
Billionaire.
point, right? Like, where do you have to go? But reality is like we're always working. I feel like God consciously gives us that desire of like, there's always another level and another thing that you can improve upon. And so, the in a perfect world that I wrote in that strategy, instead of like that BHAG that's so big, in a perfect world is just talking about closing that gap. You build emotionally what you want to feel. See, for my in a perfect world is peace. I want to
Mhm.
feel peace and I want to feel freedom. And so I know sometimes that there's a gap between where I'm at and where that needs to be. So we take you through an exercise in the book to write that out. What do you want to feel? What do you want to be surrounded by? The type of people, the type of business, and then where are you today? And how do we take one step closer to just closing that gap? Because you can experience that peace and that freedom today, even though you're not where you want to be, by just writing it out and realizing that's where I want to go. How can I get a piece of that piece? Or maybe it's security or something, you know, whatever your word or your desire is ultimately, you can close that gap by just taking a few small steps. How do I take a step towards success today? And I want to go back to what you said, because I think that's worthy of addressing when you talk about being scared of success. That is so real. It's so real to think, wow, I've actually arrived at this place I never thought possible. And now what do I do with it? It's scary because you think, how do I keep this going? Like, what if I can't keep this going? What
Right?
if like the success I have today falls off the cliff tomorrow and then I start over? And that is super scary place to be. But recently, a friend of mine informed me because I'm making a few transitions in business this next couple of years, and that's really unknown and scary to me. But she said, you know what? You're not, no matter where you are, you're not starting over at the place you began. You're starting over with all of this experience that you've built, all the highs, all the lows, everything else. So even if you transition to something new, you now bring with you all of that experience, all that pain, all that success, everything along with you. So you don't actually start over. You just start afresh with all these new perspectives. And that just gave me such a hope.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that is so good. So you're not starting from ground zero.
Mm, yeah.
You're starting from here and going here, you know, getting
Yeah.
even higher. So I love that. And we cannot underestimate or think enough about our experiences.
Mm,
All the lessons learned along the way. That knowledge that we have gained, that's priceless. That
yeah.
is absolutely priceless, and definitely the foundation to grow from to get even better. Because as we stretch ourselves, one of the things I've discovered as a business owner and entrepreneur, as we stretch ourselves beyond our comfort zones to do more, even though it's scary, we just kind of feel the fear and do it anyway. You know,
Mhm.
thank you, Joyce Myers.
Yeah.
Um, we just do it. And then it just gets easier and easier. And then before we know it, we're doing things we never thought or imagined that we would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get that. That totally, I can comprehend that, and that makes perfect sense to me. Absolute perfect sense. But as you're growing the business and as you're, dealing with all of the things as the business owner, how can entrepreneurs find that balance between being ambitious and shooting for the stars and taking the small steps forward? How do you balance that?
Well, that's a great question. Sometimes, when I hear about balance, I kind of think like balance is kind of bogus. I mean, sometimes, I've tried to achieve this great balance that everyone talks about. And honestly, it's like for me, it's more about living in the ebbs and flows of where you're at in your business now. In the beginning, you're laying a lot of foundations. You're doing a lot of work and learning a lot of new things. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot of balance there. You're really working hard. You're spending a lot of your time and energy there. And so something always has to give. And so I always look at it as like, they say marriage is 50-50, right? But I say marriage is 100%. It's just who's giving what percentage at a time. Maybe there's a time when my husband was having surgery and he was kind of out of commission that I had to give more at that time than he could give. And so then, we balance each other out later to where sometimes he's giving 70 while I'm giving 30 because other times. So I feel like business is kind of like that. There's not always like this perfect balance. Like if I work this many hours a week and have this time, then, everybody be happy. Sometimes it's just a matter of telling my family, my kids, like when I was writing the book, I was intentional about we had a set schedule that was different and there was no balance at that time. I was working all day and I thought I have to spend at least 2 hours on this book, 4 days a week. And I left my home and I had to go to Starbucks or to the gym, had a cafe that I would go to and just like put my headphones on and get my writing done. And we just had to make sacrifices for that. I said, so for me with the balance, it's a little bit more about, if you have a family and if it's open communication about what you're doing and what your intentions are and knowing that sometimes it's going to require more of you in certain seasons and other seasons will be lighter. And so having that certain ebb and flow and understanding it, not expecting that everything is going to always be in full balance, because honestly, sometimes it's just not. And if we embrace that and live in it, it's a lot more peaceful to have expectations that are like, look, we're entering into a busy season. So I'll tell my family that sometimes if I'm launching something or doing something new, or even for yourself, if you don't have a family and you're just realizing your own balance, it's looking at your internal needs. And yes, I need to work and yes, I need to produce, but also I need to relax and I need to sit with my own self and take care of myself and realize that I'm more than what I'm producing, that I'm a full body and spirit and need to pay attention to that. So when you're feeling out of balance, looking inward and seeing what do I need at this time. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, as CEOs, as boss babes, whatever you want to call us, we think that we got this. We don't need anything when honestly, sometimes we just need a break. And pumping the brakes doesn't mean you're stopping everything. It just means I need a minute. And giving yourself that minute when you need it helps you move forward, even if it takes a week to take a few minutes. Nothing's gonna die. It's not 911. The world is not coming to an end. Give yourself the break that you need, and I think that restores a lot of that balance, at least internally.
Wow, what great advice. What great advice. And I love that you put it in perspective, that just because you take a break, pump the brakes just a little bit, doesn't mean that you're stopping the whole shebang. You're just taking care of you, which is so important. One of the things that I discovered as I was, building the business is I was working so many hours consistently every single day, probably 16-hour days for months on end.
Mm-hmm.
And my family they were like, this is not sustainable. This is not healthy. This is not okay. You really need to stop. You need to take a break. You need to, delegate some of this work because it's just too much for one person. And it was so bad, Kristin, that we went on vacation to Costa Rica, one of the most beautiful islands in the world, and I couldn't even relax. I couldn't even turn it off to be
Mm.
able to enjoy the beautiful sunsets or my family that I was with. I was just so wound up. I just couldn't. And I was like, what in the world? All of this is now, still new, new to me, taking me by surprise, that even being able to relax can be a challenge as a business owner and entrepreneur if you don't take those small steps to be balanced and to take care of yourself.
Yes.
So critical, so important.
And I think part of building in the book, part of building your in a perfect world is knowing what you're anchored to. And we both already agreed we're anchored to God and we have that. But in the day to day of like, how do I need to live and show up today? Part of that piece you talked about, I feel you. I did that a couple times too. And now we have a strict no laptop rule in a vacation. Like you can leave your laptop home. And now I have panic attacks about it. And I'm not going to lie. My husband's like, no, I'm like, no laptops. I'm like, what you mean no laptops? I still got my phone. I'm okay.
Right?
Like, oh my
God.
No, for real though, it's really so hard sometimes to do that. But then I go back to that in a perfect world I built, and I go back to that word or that feeling or that desire I have. And the desire I have is to have, and for me, for everyone else, it's different. But for me, my in a perfect world is peace. At the end of the day, at the end of the work day, or even that, I thought, where do I find peace in the here and now today? Because I'm still not where I'm going and I want to get there, but also I'm not in a hurry. I can get there when I get there, but today I can still have the peace that I desire. And some people, it's a satisfaction, or it's a, whatever the feeling or desire that they have. My ultimate desire is that peace. So I think, where can I get a piece of that right here and now and today? And that part of that was not bringing the laptop, realizing that if I do take a week off and I come back, I realize the sky didn't fall. No one left. I didn't lose my entire following because I didn't post all my vacay pictures. Like, people are still going to be here. The work will still be valued. And what you're doing now still has residual effects. So if you take a week off, you're still going to have residual effects of all the work you've already put in. So that has allowed me, but I have been there and done that with the vacations of like, I'm still working even though I'm here. And like, I don't need to. The pressure is real though, right? I mean, we as CEOs and janitors, right? We are responsible for everything. So if we don't do it, it's not there for someone else to do when we get back. It's there for us to do. So the struggle is real, but also realizing that once you actually do it and the sky is not falling, you can do it again and realize, okay, I can take a break even for, just this past couple of weeks I took off, and it's scary and hard to get back into, but at the same time, it was protecting my peace, which is my ultimate goal. And so with that, it's totally worth it.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I think when you can leave and feel that comfort about leaving, know the sky is not falling, I think that's also a testament to great leadership, because you built around you a team that can handle things in your absence. So to keep the wheels moving, keep the things churning while you're away. So I think that too is a testament to great leadership of your team, because as you're building your business, you realize you can't do it all by yourself. You don't go, where you were to where you are now by, on an island, with just little old you or little old me. You got to have a team of people around you. And when you can delegate that work to lighten the load, assign some responsibilities and some, delegation of duties between people, that sort of thing. It really just makes all the difference in the world when it comes to achieving that peace, that balance, that feeling of, that you don't have to be the only one. Of course, you're carrying all the weight, but you're sharing the load. That I think is so important.
It absolutely is. And I think going back to when we talked about our foundational days, when we're working 12, 15 hours a day and we're doing it all ourselves, that is the clear indicator that we need help. And sometimes in the beginning, we don't have the resources, or we're scared to hire because what if it doesn't work out? Or what if a VA comes in and isn't who I thought they were? And what if they steal from me? So many things can go wrong and so many things can hold us back with that fear. But it's so freeing to even hire that first person. Yes, it's scary, but it's also like, wow, like look at so much more that I can do when I have some team members that can take some things off our plate. And realizing, I think for me, even hiring the first person was like, you hire your weaknesses, you hire what you're either not good at or hate doing. Like for me, it's going to be the numbers and the bookkeeping. Like, please put me in front of a microphone all day, but do not put me in front of a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
things like that can take stuff off our plate that for other people, my sister and I are very opposite. She is the accountant. I'm, I'm the podcaster, speaker, talker. And to her, that is her worst nightmare, to stand up in front of people and speak in a microphone. She wants to hide behind her spreadsheets. And so we're very opposite. And understanding to hire that first person, there are people that love what you despise. So she loves her bookkeeping and her numbers and her spreadsheets and all of her little programs and QuickBooks. And I'm just like, here, please just take this. That is the worst for me. That was the most freeing thing I think I ever did, was really your first hire is very scary, but then you realize this light bulb goes off of like, look at all these hours I just freed up. And this person is happy to do that. I always thought that I have to hire someone that absolutely hates this. And what are they going to do? And my sister was like, no, give me the spreadsheets and you go speak in the microphone. So it's a very good win-win.
Yes, I love it. And you said it best, that there are people who love to do what you despise. So, and when you've got that, and I love that you said you got to hire what you're not good at, for your weaknesses. That way the team is built out, and it's like, and there's no lack. There's and people are happy to be operating in their gifts, in their skills, in their talents. That's just, we're innately, I think, made that way. We have gifts, we have talents. If we're made to do something that we don't love, then it's like we procrastinate. We might do it in a half-hearted way, just or whatever. It won't be excellent.
Yes.
But when we're operating in our gifts, ooh, that is sheer excellence, sheer brilliance. I love it. Yeah. So I can relate for sure. Definitely. So, Kristin, what are some mindset shifts that were pivotal in building your business? Because we talked a lot about, going from where you were to where you are now, and, some of the adjustments that needed to be made, and even overcoming that fear of success. And were there any other mindset shifts that you had to make along the way?
Yes. I mean, you mentioned Joyce Meyer earlier in the show, and I will go back and quote her: new levels, new devils. That's something that she's always said, that as you grow, you're going to reach new levels, but then you're going to have new problems, new issues, even back in the day. I know this is dating me as well, but P. Diddy with the mo money, mo problems, right? I mean, that's real. And, I came from very humble means. I came from a single parent family. And I was taught back in the day that, like, if you want it, you earn it, because nothing's given, and you have to go and get it, and you have to work hard, and you have to, the reward is good, but also you must put the work in. Nothing will ever be just handed to you.
Right.
And moving forward in that, just new levels, and realizing that, like, you think you're going to arrive to some place and it's just going to be like, sunshines and rainbows and all your problems go away. And realizing that every success is going to come with a new set of challenges, and how you, defeat is optional. That's what I've learned. I've learned from an old mentor that I had, that, he was, as he told his story, and he was a speaker, and he was very dynamic, and as a mentor of mine for a while, his name is Roger Crawford, and he actually was born with a strange disease that he only has a few fingers and a few on both hands, and yet he has learned how to play tennis at a competitive level. And so you look at someone like that and you say, wow, he doesn't make excuses, he just makes it happen. How does it happen? And as he was being my mentor and talking a little bit about that, he always used to say that challenges will come, and they will come, and they will come at you from all angles, but defeat is optional. And I really took that to the bank. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to face challenges and I'm going to face scary, unknown things. But if I'm always remembering that defeat is optional, I can either quit or I can learn a way around or through or over. And also realizing, I think, that when we face challenges and obstacles, a lot of times we tend to think that we're alone and that nobody knows what I'm going through, or nobody's ever been through this, or whatever. And it's just so hard in the moment when you realize, like, there's nothing new under the sun. There is someone somewhere that has conquered not just this, but something bigger and better. And if they can do it, I can find a way around or through or over. And I've always just been really determined to, I sit in that mindset. I'll be honest. I am scared. And I do think this is never going to work. And this is where the journey ends. And I guess I better just pack it up and quit. And realizing that just outside of that comfort zone, that door that's challenging you, defeat is optional. I can go through it. I can have a win in this situation if I don't give up, if I figure out a way around, and ask for help. Ask for help. You cannot always do it on your own.
That's right. That's right. And there's a scripture that even talks about the benefit of surrounding yourself with wise counsel.
Yeah.
You don't have to have all the answers. You can surround yourself with people who are wise, who are God-fearing, who also can join with you in prayer for that thing that you're struggling with, or whatever. All of those things are so critically important. And I just love that defeat is optional.
Mm-hmm.
You can either lay down, which coming from where we're from, I'm also a product of a single mom. That's not an option. It's like, you got to get out there and do what you got to do to make stuff happen.
Yes.
Nobody's going to hand you anything. You've got to work for everything. And as a Black woman, in my case, my mom said, because you're a Black woman, you're going to have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. Mm. So, and I really took those words to heart. And so the standards that I set for myself from little all the way till now, those words still linger in the back of my head. Excellence is the most important thing. Yes. And just doing your absolute best, because you are a reflection of the family. Basically was
no pressure.
Right? No pressure. Thanks, Mom.
I love what you said there too, because my father actually was raised by a single dad, which was very strange in the 80s. Of raised with a single dad with two girls, and he always said the same thing you said. It's always do your best. He said it. Your best is going to look different than somebody else's, but you can lay down at night knowing that you did your best. That's all that you can do, and sometimes that might fall short of expectations or goals. But I love that, and I love the wisdom that your mother gave you as well. And we have to take that and move forward with it and pass it to the next generation. And at the end of the day, if I can say, you know what, I really did my best today. I did my best to just do what was on my plate. And sometimes I didn't succeed, but I still did my best. Sometimes, that my dad was very real, and I brought that with me. He was like, sometimes your best is not going to get it done. And you have to realize that your best is still good enough, because you can lay your head down at night knowing I did all that I could. I was kind. I loved people. I worked hard. I did everything I could, knowing that might still be second or third place. And that's just going to be okay. I can be proud at the end of every day knowing I did my best. And so I love that you mentioned that your mom said that too, because maybe that's why we're sitting here today, because we had single parents that said, work hard and do your best and keep pushing.
That's right. That's right. 100%. We are living proof that hard work pays off. Yes. It truly, truly pays off in the end. You can't be weak. You've got to be strong. You've got to push. You got to stretch outside your comfort zone and do your absolute best 100% of the time. So that, like you said, at the end of the day, you can lay your head down and sleep well.
Yeah.
Knowing that you did your best. So I know that we're kind of coming up on time, but I definitely want to get in this last question before we find out, how we can, stay in touch with you and that sort of thing. But what are 3 key tips for aspiring online entrepreneurs that you can give that will help them on their journey?
Okay, number one is surround yourself. I mean, we're just kind of summarizing what we talked about today. Summarizing that is really bringing people to get a group or at least one accountability partner. I know I talk about it in the book. Accountability is everything. It's a whole chapter. So whether that's like a council of people, we talked about that in scripture too. Like there's wisdom in many counselors. So surround yourself with people, join a mastermind, get into a group of women or a group that resonates with you in some way, and be humble enough to ask for help. Be able to share your story. The more vulnerable and transparent you can be, the more help you will receive. Because at that point, when you kind of empty it all, now you have this cup that can be filled by other people. And so I realized that holding it all in and not sharing and not talking about your issues and your problems doesn't help people put things into your cup. They don't know what to fill it up with until you're vulnerable enough to say, hi, I don't know everything and I need some help. That was difficult for me, raised by a single father and raised by be independent, take care of yourself. You've got this. He always used to say too, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And I have actually unsubscribed from that because I realized that if I want something done right, I'm going to teach people how to do it my way and they're going to do it.
There you go. There you go. I love that.
So we just shifted that idea a little bit and say, you know what? I'll just teach people, or I'll hire someone who knows what they're doing and trust them. And so I say, so number one key is surrounding yourself with people, asking for help. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Go into a room where there's other people that know better and know more, and just take it in. Oh, so that's number one. Number two is always understanding that it's never a straight line. So what you see on Instagram, what you see on TikTok, what do you see all these people's success stories, there's probably a decade at least behind how they reached that milestone. So having realistic expectations and realistic goals, I think really helps when you're moving forward. Because I think if we think, oh, we just have to go in this linear straight line, and if I do this, and this, it's going to go straight in. And understanding that roller coaster is very real. When those valleys come, you can understand like this is temporary. Everything you do is temporary. By the time you get through the valley, you're going back up the next mountain. So really realizing that having expectations that this is a process and a journey. You're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to hit successes. There's so many things that are going to happen, and just receiving it in the moment for what it is. If it's painful, receive that pain, digest it, figure it out. If it's joyful, same thing, because that's going to come with, oh no, scary success as well. So really having realistic expectations there.
I love
and then
that.
also the third, I guess, would just be expecting change and being resilient, realizing that like what got you here will not get you there. So you have to grow and you have to change and you have to embrace the fact that like, I mean, are you doing today what you were doing 10 years ago? In 2014.
Absolutely not.
And so if we actually kind of look at our lives in these chunks of time rather than moments and say, okay, what was I doing 10 years ago? And how have I grown into a different person from that? What has changed besides just my hair?
Right.
But honestly, like what has changed in my life? And I think if we take time to reflect on these milestones and look at what 10 years can do, or even 5 years, you'll realize I'm not even the same person today I was last January. And embracing that and say, what am I bringing new to the table this year? And how can I continue to bring that forward and grow? And just realizing you're always a work in progress, and embracing each step, I think is how you keep your joy and your peace. Not always looking forward to what's going to be next and that thing will bring me joy, but how can I have joy and peace today with where I'm at and where I'd like to go?
Right. Oh, I love that. Those are amazing tips. So the first one, just to recap, is to surround yourself with great people, wise people. Expect that it's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be some hills and valleys. And the third one is just to be resilient and enjoy the journey, I think is the message that I got from those three tips. Brilliant. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much. So Kristin, how can we reach you? What is the best place where we can find you and stay in touch with you, like and subscribe to all of your platforms, be friends?
Yes. Oh, so I am Mommy Income everywhere. So at Mommy Income, we have a YouTube channel. Again, I teach and train people to start and grow businesses with e-commerce. And so that you're going to see a lot of e-commerce information there, but we have a strong YouTube channel. We teach a lot about that, but it's not just e-commerce. I like to inspire and motivate people and talk about things I was talking about today as well. So you see a little bit of that. There's also e-commerce help. So at mommyincome.com and Mommy Income on all the socials. That's where you'll find us there. I'd love to be able to connect.
I love it. I love it. And we're scrolling for those that are watching, scrolling your YouTube channel and your pages here, website, beautiful website. So, and I'm sure that this has been such a tremendous resource to mommies everywhere. Well, I know it has. I mean, you're living proof. This has been a tremendous resource because there are so many mommies who don't want to go back into corporate world but still want to be able to contribute to their household. So this is an amazing platform that you have set up and put together. And I encourage everyone to follow, like, subscribe to all of the channels, and share them with their friends that this is another resource that can be considered if they don't want to, if they're new moms and they don't want to go back into the workforce. So you can train them on how to make money at home through e-commerce. So this is brilliant. I absolutely love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Thank you so much. And just so you know, on the website too, you can, and we mentioned the book a lot. So Dream Big, Step Small is available both on my website, or you can go to mommyincome.com/book, get a copy there. We're on Audible and Amazon, Kindle as well. So in any platform that you would love, the book is just such a great resource, whether the tagline is reducing the overwhelm by building like the business of your dreams. And so whatever that looks like, it's not really my story or about Amazon. It's actually very practical. And like at the end of every chapter, there's going to be a checklist for you to do and action steps for you to take. So it's very actionable as well. So I just wanted to mention that as well. If we reference the book so many times, I want people to get a copy of it and just work through their dreams. And this is a great time of year to start off with something like that as well.
Well, that's awesome. Well, again, it's the beginning of the year. Why not? Yes, definitely. Everybody buy the book. Click on the link. Go to the website. Find it on Amazon. Mommy Income is the website to go to. The name of the book is Dream Big, Step Small. Definitely get it. This is one of the first steps that you can take to making a difference in your year this year. So thank you so much, Kristin, for your time today. I am going to end with a short word from our sponsor. Our sponsor today is Wilbron. And Wilbron, and in a world of higher education, effective communication is crucial for success. That's where our sponsor Wilbron comes in. Wilbron was established in 2006 as a higher education think tank, and it quickly gained recognition for providing unparalleled communications counsel to college presidents at over 100 campuses across the US and Canada. With a proven track record, Wilbron expanded to offer public relations, brand management, and creative services, gaining global attention from diverse entities. Today, Wilbron is synonymous with PR excellence. Known for its innovative approach and client successes, Wilbron, where communication meets excellent. Visit www.wilbron.com to see how Wilbron can elevate your brand. Wilbron, elevating communication, empowering success for good. So, Kristin, you were made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Thank you so much.